Hi everyone, and welcome to the first video of 2024. I meant to post this a lot earlier, but got derailed with the flu. I'm wishing you all a happy new year and lots of health and abundance in this new year. So let's get into what I wanted to discuss today. First of all, if you're already in our emailing list, you would have received a notice around a blog that was posted yesterday, just discussing a few points around this particular item that we're going to be discussing today. If you're not on the emailing list yet, I'll write something below so that you can subscribe to our email list and get notices when things like blogs go up, for example. And make sure also that you subscribe to this channel for when new videos are posted. So let's get into this particular question. If you're a cancer survivor or someone that's just really interested in cancer prevention, one of the things that a lot of us might ask ourselves is, what actually causes cancer, first of all? Because if we understand what causes cancer, we can start to minimize those things and those factors. And what are some things that we could be doing to help lower our risk? This particular monograph from the World Health Organization is actually really critical and important to help us answer some of those questions, which is why I thought it was so important to share it with you. I think everybody, whether you're a cancer survivor or not, should actually know that this particular file exists. So if you have family members or other people that you love or friends who are also just like-minded and want to know more about cancer prevention and how they can lower the risk, show them this chart and send it and share it with them, because I think it's really important that they know some of the items here because they're really critical. So first of all, this particular monograph by the World Health Organization is about 14 pages long. What I like about it, though, and why I think it's actually important for all of us to know about it, is because it gives us information on potential cancer-causing agents. And it divvies it up by ones that have sufficient evidence in humans, meaning that there's a good amount of evidence. This is something that we really want to pay attention to. And agents with limited evidence with regards to their cancer-causing ability in humans. That limited evidence means that there is some form of evidence. It's just not as strong as the other column that we have here. And so when you take a look at this chart, what it gives you is a rundown by cancer sites, which is, I think, brilliant, because, you know, if you're looking at your specific type of cancer, for example, and things that could potentially be linked to this specific type of cancer, it really allows you to look at that at a much easier glance over here. And so the first column has a cancer site, then you've got the carcinogenic agents with sufficient evidence in humans, so good amount of evidence in humans. We want to try and avoid those as much as possible. And then agents with limited evidence in humans, we want to start looking at ways that we can start decreasing those exposures, because there still seems to be a bit of a link there. So with this particular monograph, what they did was also they updated it in December of 2023, meaning that the information here is actually really recent. It's been looked at already, which is something that I think we should all be mindful of, that the information that we're getting is actually as recent as possible, and it still plays a part here in terms of, you know, it makes sense. It's still valid within the context that we're discussing right now. So what we do know is that cancer isn't caused necessarily by just one thing. It's usually an environment of many different things layered on top of each other that leads to cancerous processes. So it's not just going to be one particular item in this chart either, nor does this chart actually include all of the potential cancer-causing factors. Things like lifestyle, for example, is not something that is all highlighted here, but we're really focusing on agents, different types of exposures, more so in this particular chart. We also know that for women specifically, colon, breast, and things like lung cancer tend to be the top 3 types of cancers that most women in North America will have. Now, there are many different reasons for that, but I wanted to highlight those types of cancers right now because I think it's critical and important, and also because as a naturopathic doctor, the types of cancers that my cancer patients have tend to be more so the colon and the breast types of cancers, again, because of just how prevalent it is. So let's look into the column under colon cancer. So when we look at colon cancer, for example, the cancer-causing agents with sufficient evidence in humans linked to colon cancer include things like alcoholic beverages, processed meat, consumption of tobacco smoking, X and gamma radiation. So if you're asking, what types of things should I be really looking at in terms of cancer prevention strategies? Avoiding or limiting alcoholic beverages, avoiding or limiting processed meats, as well as tobacco smoking is actually really important in terms of those healthy lifestyle factors. Now, when we look at those items with sufficient evidence for colon cancer, asbestos, firefighter or occupational exposure as a firefighter, night shift work, red meat consumption, and a specific type of infection. Now, with the night shift work, what's really critical and important here to note is that it's not just the fact of having a night shift, but the fact that, it impacts our body function. There's different things around decreasing that melatonin production. There's unhealthy lifestyle factors potentially also being layered on here. Lower exposure to sunlight, for example, meaning that we've got decreased levels of vitamin D and then higher levels of stress for some of these people. And you'll see that all of these things probably play a factor, not just, simplifying it to night shift work essentially. So that's colon cancer, and those are some things that could potentially be linked to colon cancer here based on this particular chart. Now, for breast cancer, when we go into the chart around that, there's sufficient evidence with that cancer-causing link for alcoholic beverages again, the specific type of medication, DES, that was given a long time ago for women to prevent miscarriages, and then they found out that it was actually linked to increased risk for different types of cancers like breast in their offspring. Estrogen, progestogen, oral contraceptives, that's really important to know, because what I find is a lot of women aren't actually told that there may be this link to cancer. Estrogen, progestogen, menopausal therapy, as well as X and gamma radiation. We see that in the column under sufficient evidence, meaning that there's a good amount of evidence to know that we really should be thinking about ways to minimize those exposures as much as possible. If it's something that you're currently taking or something that you've taken in the past, just know that everyone has a different sort of risk factor, and it's best to speak to your doctor about it, whether or not you want to use it. My whole thing is that if you do want to use something like it, that you should have the information that you need to make an actual sort of decision for yourself that makes sense for you. But the issue is, most times, a lot of us don't necessarily know the potential side effects of different types of medications that we might be on, including their link to different types of cancers. So just speak to your doctor to see if a medication would be right for you based on your particular situation. What we also see in the sort of column with limited evidence around cancer-causing risk for breast cancer are things like estrogen therapy, postmenopausally, night shift work again here, tobacco smoking, and a few other things. But we have to know that certain medications and hormone therapies that we might have been on or might be put on later could potentially be linked to different types of cancers, like breast cancer, for example, and that is actually really important for you to have the information on before you make a decision for yourself around those medications. There's also a lot of different types of cancers here that you could take a look at. Urinary bladder cancer, for example, prostate cancer. They've got ovarian cancer listed here as well. Again, estrogen therapy for postmenopausal sort of type of reasonings being under sufficient evidence linking estrogen therapies to ovarian cancers. And we have endometrial cancer, again, also having that estrogen therapy, estrogen, progestogen, menopausal therapy, also being under that sort of sufficient evidence for endometrial cancer. So it's all really important for you to know and see this information. I think the reason why I wanted to share it with everyone was because, again, it helps to answer that question of what causes cancer or what could potentially be linked to cancer. It helps us to know which areas we may want to sort of bolster up and boost up. And if we can't, for example, change our job because, there are certain jobs that are related with risks for different types of cancers, that we also then work on decreasing our risks elsewhere and boosting up prevention strategies elsewhere for things that you can control. So your diet, your lifestyle, your sleep, sugar regulation aspects, hormone balancing, all of those things can actually be really helpful to help decrease those risks for cancer. Again, because cancer is not just caused by one thing normally, it's a sort of layering of multiple different types of things that can lead into this perfect environment for cancerous processes to want to undergo and thrive in. So we're trying to stop it at many different points as much as possible by working on those prevention strategies, by decreasing some of these agents and exposures that have been linked to cancer as well. So take a look at the chart. I will also sort of link the blog here in this video as well as link the chart here for you to take a look at, and let me know if there's anything in there in this particular chart that's you never knew about, that maybe no one ever discussed with you, or that surprises you, because I would love to know what your feelings and thoughts are around this particular chart. Again, it is from the World Health Organization. We know that the evidence here and the information that's been given is actually something that we could rely on. It's a good, valid source as well for us. So I hope that's helpful to you.